Hey guys, what's up? We have the final release for the cards contained within the Flames of Destruction pack, and it provides quite the variety. The first card is Jack Knight Aurum. This is a level 4 light psychic normal monster with 2000 attack and 0 defense. This is the only one of the Jack Knights that can be normal summoned without the column effect. This is necessary if you are unfortunate to have a bricked hand, or if your opponent is aware enough to not place more than one card in each of their columns. The next card is World Legacy Nightmare. This is a field spell that says 1. All battle damage you would take from battles involving co-linked monsters you control becomes 0. 2. Once per turn during your main phase, you can select and activate one of the following effects. Move one Troymare monster you control to another main monster zone on your side of the field. Exchange the positions of 2 Troymare monsters in main monster zones on your side of the field. The first effect negates battle damage, which can be useful in longer duels, or if you have weaker monsters on your field. As for the second effect, the purpose of moving your Troymare monsters is to make sure their effects can be used as best as they can, and to exchange the battle positions of 2 of your Troymare monsters can avoid the problem with your field bricking, as you would otherwise, without this, have to plan carefully how and where you are placing your Troymare monsters, and you would also have to ensure those specific monsters had not been dealt with by card effects or by battle destruction. World Legacy Echo is a counter trap that says you can only activate a card with this name once per turn. 1. If you control co-linked monsters. When the opponent activates a monster effect or a spell or trap card, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. This card has an effect which is not difficult to achieve, and benefits beyond the other counter traps to be able to negate anything without the costs of life points, such as with the Solemn cards. This works well as a counter trap for most decks that can bring out link monsters. World Legacy Awakening is a normal trap card that says you can only activate a card with this name once per turn. 1. Link summon 1 monster using monsters you control as materials. This card is one of those extra deck summoning cards that can work on your opponent's turn, the same as something like Instant Fusion, which can bring out the necessary extra deck monster without your opponent being able to anticipate this. Just consider this to be the link version of that card. Limit Code is a normal trap card that says you can only activate a card with this name once per duel. 1. If you have a Cyverse monster in your graveyard, place a number of counters in this card equal to the number of those monsters, and if you do, special summon 1 Code Talker monster from your extra deck, and if you do, equip it with this card. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. During your end phase, remove a counter from this card, or if you cannot remove any, destroy this card. This card is able to instantly bring out one of your Code Talker monsters, which can be useful as some of them have attack increasing effects or negation effects, which can be needed at certain times, such as longer in the duel. The token removal effect means you have a limited time to use the Code Talker monster, but in pure Cyverse decks, you can have then around 4 or more turns, providing instant advantage at no real cost. Universal Cyclone is a quick play spell card that says 1. Target 1 link monster the opponent controls, banish a monster from your graveyard with the same number of link arrows, and if you do, destroy the targeted monster. Also, if you banish a monster whose original type was Cyverse, you can destroy 1 face-up card in the opponent's spell and trap zone. This card is able to counter your opponent's link monster, however, the issue being you need to have a link monster in your graveyard with the same number of link arrows, but with the added benefit of getting rid of a face-up back row card if you banished a Cyverse monster. Yashiki Warashi is a level 3 Earth Zombie Tuner with 0 attack and 1800 defense, and its effect is you can only use this card's name's effect once per turn. 1. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, you can discard this card, negate that activation. Add a card from the graveyard to the hand, deck, or extra deck. Special summon from the graveyard. Banish a card from the graveyard. This is the new hand trap, so be prepared for this to be one of the money cards from the set. It, being a tuner, is like the rest of them, however they tend not to be used for this purpose. It has no attack, but has enough of a defensive nature that at worst can be set. As for its effects, this can shut down effects relating to the graveyard, so preventing your opponent from recovering their resources, as well as adding cards to either the hand, deck, or extra deck, so it can shut down pendulums very quickly. Geist Pixel is a level 1 wind spellcaster with 100 attack and 100 defense, and its effect is you can only use the first effect with this card's name once per turn. 1. You contribute this card, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, add to your hand 1 Geist card among them. Also, send any remaining cards to the graveyard. This card has very little in terms of stats, but with its effect, you can search for an Geist within the top 3 cards of your deck, or alternatively, if you don't run Geist, this can act as a way of fueling your graveyard with effects that work in the graveyard, or become easier to bring back from the graveyard to the field. Trickstar Bouquet is a quick play spell card that says you can only activate 1 card with this name once per turn. 1. Target 1 Trickstar monster you control and 1 face-up monster on the field. Return that Trickstar monster to the hand, and if you do, the other targeted monster gains attack equal to the original attack of the monster that was returned to the hand until the end of this turn. This card is able to increase the attack of another monster. Some of the Trickstars have decent attack around the 1600 mark or above, so it can be used to respond to an opponent's attack to protect that other monster. Also, some of the Trickstars have effects that only work when they are normal summoned, so by sending them back to the hand, such as Candina, who when summoned, normal summoned will search for a Trickstar card, increases your advantage without having to run unusual tech cards to achieve the same result. Trickstar Delphine Liam is a Link 3 light fairy link effect monster with 2200 attack and has link points at the top, bottom left and bottom right. It requires 2 or more Trickstar monsters, and its effect is 1. If there are Trickstar monsters linked to this card, when this card declares an attack, you can target a number of your banished Trickstar cards up to the number of link monsters the opponent controls, add them to your hand, and if you do, this card gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn for each card added to the hand by this effect. This has a decent stat for its summoning, and its requirement is necessary for the Trickstar archetype only. In terms of the effect, this is able to recover your Trickstar monsters that have been banished equal to the link monsters the opponent has to go to the hand, and it gains 1000 attack for each one. Typically, this may only become 3200 attack, but the boost is less important than the recovery of Trickstars to use next turn. Geist MLL is a continuous trap card that says 1. Special to summon this card as an effect monster, spellcaster light level 4 with 1400 attack and 1800 defense. This card is also still a trap card. 2. While you control this card that was special summoned by its own effect, Geist trap cards you control except this card cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. This is a trap monster that has decent stats, and it provides protection to your other Geist trap cards. Watchcat is a level 1 Earth Beast effect monster with 0 attack and 1800 defense, and its effect is you can only use each of this card's effects once per turn. 1. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. 2. During the end phase of your turn in which this card was special summoned, you can banish this card you control, set 1 continuous spell card from your deck in your spell and trap zone. This card is able to be special summoned if you don't have any monsters, and it can search and set a continuous spell card to your back row, which you can use next turn. Dark Lord Divinity is a normal trap card that says you can only use this card name's first effect once per turn. 1. You can send one Dark Lord monster from your hand or face up from your side of the field to the graveyard. Negate the effects of one monster on the field until the end of this turn. Also, you gain life points equal to its attack. This card can stop your opponent's combos, as many of them begin with a monster effect, while setting up your graveyard and gaining life points. Link Streamer is a level 4 light Cyverse effect monster with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and its effect is you can only use the effect of a card with this name once per turn. 1. When a Cyverse monster is normal or special summoned, or you already control this card, you can special summon one data token. Cyverse light level 1 with 0 attack and 0 defense. This card has a decent attack and defense and is able to bring out a token once per turn when a Cyverse monster is summoned, which can be used for a Link summon. Prompt Horn is a level 1 Dark Cyverse effect monster with 200 attack and 400 defense, and its effect is you can only use the effect of a card with this name once per turn. 1. You can tribute one level 4 or lower Cyverse monster, special summon any number of Cyverse normal monsters from your deck or graveyard whose total levels equal the level of the tributed monster, but they are banished during the end phase. This card is able to bring out a number of Cyverse normal monsters equal to the level of the one tribute. This means at most 4 level 1 monsters, which can be used for Link summons or Synchro summons. Transfamiliar is a level 1 Dark Psychic effect monster with 0 attack and 0 defense, and its effect is once per turn, you can target one monster you control, move that monster you control to another of your main monster zones. This card acts like electronic simulation kinesis, but for your monsters instead of your opponents. This is good for decks such as Jack Knights that rely on being moved, but they already have their inbuilt version, Azure Blue. This can be used for other decks, however with non-existent stats. This won't stay on the field long enough to benefit from it without protection cards. Designator from the Grave is a quick play spell card that says 1. Target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. Until the end of the next turn, that monster and monsters with the same card name as that monster have their effects negated. This card is able to get rid of one of your opponent's monsters and stops them from using their effects until the end of their next turn. It can also get rid of hand traps that have copies in the graveyard from activating. Altergeist Multifaker is a level 3 Dark Spellcaster effect monster with 1200 attack and 800 defense, and its effect is you can only use this card's name's first and second effects once per turn each. 1. If you activate a trap card, you can special summon this card from your hand. 2. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon one Altergeist monster from your deck in face-up defense position, except Altergeist Multifaker. During the turn you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters except Altergeist monsters. This card can special summon itself quickly, as they rely heavily on their trap cards, and can bring out another Altergeist monster from your deck to go into an Altergeist Link monster. World Legacy End is a continuous spell card that says 1. You can only control one World Legacy End. 2. Once per turn, if a face-up Link monster you control leaves the field by your opponent's card effect or by being destroyed in battle, you can special summon one World Legacy monster from your hand or deck in defense position. This card can replace a Link monster with a World Legacy once per turn, which can replace your field with a monster with a better or similar ability. Redhaired Buster is a level 7 Fire Cyverse effect monster with 2500 attack and 2400 defense, and its effect is cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing 2 Cyverse monsters from your graveyard. You can only activate the effect of a card with this name once per turn. 1. During either player's turn, you can target one monster the opponent controls with attack higher than this card's attack. Banish it until the end phase. This card has an easy summoning requirement, and it can banish a monster, even if only temporarily, to deal with the rest of your opponent's board. Stare Down is a continuous spell card that says 1. When you special summon a monster to an extra monster zone, you can target one monster in a main monster zone on your opponent's side of the field, move that opponent's monster to a main monster zone on their side of the field in the same column as your monster in the extra monster zone. 2. When your opponent special summons a monster to an extra monster zone, you can target one monster in a main monster zone on your side of the field, move that monster to a main monster zone on your side of the field in the same column as your opponent's monster in the extra monster zone. In terms of the first effect, this can help some of your own link monsters. For example, Decode Talker gains 500 attack for the monsters linked to it, so by forcing an opponent's monster to the same main monster zone as this card is pointing to, will help manipulate your opponent's moves. As for the second effect, this does the same, but for your opponent's summoning, which can be helpful if they have an effect that benefits your own monster. Miniature Monk Hidaruma is a link to Fire Beast Warrior Link effect monster with 1500 attack, and its links are the bottom left and the bottom right. It requires 2 Beast, Beast Warrior or Winged Beast monsters, and its effect is 1. This card gains 100 attack for each Beast, Beast Warrior and Winged Beast monster on the field. 2. Once per turn, you can target one spell and trap card on each player's side of the field, destroy them. 3. When this card destroys an opponent's monster in battle, you can target one of your Beast, Beast Warrior or Winged Beast monsters in your graveyard, or that is banished, add it to your hand. This card has a weak stat, but is easy enough to summon, provided you run a specific style of deck. In terms of the effects, this card can become 2000 attack if you are the only player running those cards. As for the second effect, you can get rid of one of your weaker back row cards to get rid of one of their back row, which may be more important to them. As for the final effect, this card is able to recover one of your specific typed monsters from the graveyard or banish zone, which can be useful for certain decks, especially synchro heavy decks. Outroll of the Haunted Sea is the level 3 Water Beast Warrior Tuna effect monster with 100 attack and 1300 defense, and its effect is you can only use each of this card name's effects once per turn, and you can only special summon Beast Warrior monsters during the turn in which you activate either effect. 1. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one Beast Warrior monster in your graveyard. The attribute and level of this card become the same as that monster's until the end of this turn. 2. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. Special summon one Beast Warrior monster from your hand with the same attribute and level of this card. In every booster pack for the last few, there's always been 1 or 2 unusual tuners added to them. Cue this card. It being a level 3 makes it quite versatile for summoning monsters and can easily access synchros such as level 7, which has a nice variety about it. The stats are mediocre, but it won't be on the field for long anyway. With the first effect, you can make this card copy the attribute and level of a Beast Warrior in the graveyard. This might seem strange, but some synchros are dependent on attributes for them to be summoned, and manipulating levels gives you faster access to some other synchro monsters. As for the second effect, this card can bring out a Beast Warrior with the same attribute and level. This means it is worth running Beast Warriors with the same attribute to make it easier to use them. Yugioh Vader is a level 5 Dark Reptile effect monster with 2200 attack and 0 defense, and its effect is 1. If this card is normal or special summoned in a main monster zone, other than the middle one, destroy it. 2. Once per turn, you can move this card to an adjacent main monster zone that is not occupied. 3. Each time exactly one monster is normal summoned or special summoned to the opponent's field, If that opponent's monster is not in this card's column, move this card to a main monster zone, one adjacent column closer to that monster's column, then destroy all other cards in the same column as this card. This card must be summoned to the middle column, which makes it a target of column-based negation, such as Shutline. As for the second effect, this card can then move with this effect, so it is not stuck where you summon it. As for the final effect, this card is able to move itself and destroy all other cards in that column. The problem is this could include your own back row, and this is too unpredictable to be reliable. Light of Seca is a normal spell card that says you can only use the first and second effects of this card once per turn. 1. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, draw 2 cards. After activating this card, you cannot activate spell or trap cards or effects for the rest of the duel, except Light of Seca. 2. You can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 1 monster in your hand, and if you do, return it to the deck and shuffle it, then draw 1 card. In terms of the first effect, you are able to draw 2 cards, but cannot activate any spell or trap cards for the rest of the duel. This is a steep cost for a draw effect. It would not be worth running unless your deck relies on either banishing, where you can guarantee that all your back row cards are banished, or if you feel like you're about to win. It could also be used in super heavy samurais, as they don't use spell or traps. As for the second effect, you can return a monster in your hand and replace it with an additional draw. Ruthless Dropoff is a counter-trap card that says 1. When a face-up card on the field or a card in the graveyard is added to the opponent's hand by a card effect, look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, banish the card that was added to the hand and all cards in it with the same name. This card is able to counter your opponent, recovering what they need to the hand, and gets rid of any additional copies with the same name. Poking the Serpent's Nest is a normal trap card that says 1. If this set card on the field is sent to the graveyard or banished by an opponent's effect, special summon 1 monster from your deck or extra deck. This card is able to replace itself with a monster from the deck or extra deck, but your opponent is not likely to activate an effect to get rid of it, unless you can try and bait them out with other face-down cards to make it look like a threat. Marquis is a normal trap card that says 1. Target 1 face-up monster the opponent controls, discard a number of cards in your hand equal to the level of that monster, and if you do, draw that many cards from your deck, then return the targeted monster to the owner's hand. This card is able to return a monster back to the hand and get rid of your hand to redraw that number of cards. This is a decent card, as if you don't like your hand, you redraw with no cost to you. Boycotton is a level 4 Earth Plant effect monster with 1000 attack and 2500 defense, and its effect is 1. You take the battle damage that the opponent takes from battles involving this card. 2. If this card is not destroyed by battle, and you took battle damage in that battle, return this card to the hand. This card has great defense stats for a level 4. In fact, to my memory, the only level 4 with high defense is currently Destiny Hero Defender with 2700, but this card is useless as this acts like a reverse of Amazoness Swordswoman, as you take all the battle damage. Also, with the second effect, it goes back to the hand, so it doesn't even work to protect your life points. Rapid Redhaired Mare is a level 5 Winged Beast effect monster with 2000 attack and 1800 defense, and its effect is 1. You can special summon this card from your hand in a column that has no cards in it. You can only special summon a card with this name by this method once per turn. 2. If a card is placed in the same column as this card, destroy this card. 3. Once per turn, you can activate this effect until the end of this turn, half this card's original attack, and if you do, it can attack your opponent directly. The first effect lets you special summon it, provided there is an empty column. The second effect can force this card to be destroyed by your opponent, simply by placing something in the same column as it, and the third effect can let you attack directly. But then again, there are better cards that let you do this without as much risk. The final card is Sponsored Reborn. This is a normal spell card that says 1. Target 3 monsters in your graveyard. Your opponent chooses one of those monsters for you to special summon, and you banish the remaining monsters. You can only activate a card with its name once per turn. This card forces your opponent to decide which card you bring back from the graveyard. The only way to make this work to your advantage is to force 3 strong monsters that your opponent won't feel they have much of a choice. As for the banishing, this may not be an issue with certain macro decks, but this is much weaker than the original Monster Reborn, as it does not allow access to the opponent's graveyard. Overall, I like the variety that has been shown in Flames of Destruction, with a set of cards that take on new and currently working on themes, with some of the older cards such as Watch Cat. And the best part is, rather than mess around with the original Monster Reborn, they made a different version so that it doesn't get the Crush card virus treatment, which made it totally unusable. My favourite card overall is Miniature Monk Hidaruma, but this is because I have always liked beast support cards, whilst my least favourite is Transfamiliar, as it will take too much to protect it. Which are your favourite cards, and which don't you like? Which decks are you planning to build as well? Leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and as always, thank you for taking the time.
Some things will never change. Well, only let's see the dream, my life.